Hi, I'm Alan, and welcome to my demonstration on what it means to be a Canadian in this dear land. In this documentary, we will cover 10 concepts as what it means to be a Canadian. Let's start off with me. When my parents came to Canada, they came specifically to Toronto. All of the reasons why they came are related to the 10 concepts and that will be presented soonly. So, at the end of this, we should get an understanding of what it means to be a Canadian and why it's so unique. When families like mine immigrate to the city, they come for reasons like the urban settlement patterns. The urban settlement patterns in Canada are rather interesting. In fact, 90% of Canada's population live in a narrow strip adjoining the Canada-US border. The most concentrated area is in the Ontario region. Flatlands are a major reason for this. The flatlands come from erosions from millions and millions of years ago, but these events are separated in time in terms of million upon millions of years in difference. So, we have a measure called the era. For instance, in the Precambrian era, the Canadian Shield was formed, and since its formations was billions of years ago, erosion over time made those lands flat. But places like in the Western Cordillera, its landforms are impractical for transportation, but its landscapes make it very popular for tourists. The other landform regions are used for other functions like farming and agriculture, such as the interior plains, and also part of the Canadian Shield. Another part as what it means to be a Canadian is to know its contributions in its geological discoveries. Alfred Wegener is the person who created the theory of the continental drift. His reasons seemed plausible, but back then they couldn't find a force strong enough to support his reasons. A couple of decades later, a man that goes by the name of John Tuzo Wilson developed a theory of plate tectonics. And this made Alfred Wegener's theory proven correct and helped mankind itself. John stated that the plate tectonics is created by convection currents from an unequal distribution of heat within the Earth's core. And all around the world, when plate tectonics smash each other, they form natural disasters such as tsunamis and volcano eruptions. This discovery has led to technological advancements in prevention of natural disasters thanks to John. Geographically, Canada's landforms is diverse and thus causing different forms of climate and precipitation. In Canada, there are many factors affecting climate, and we use the abbreviation LOERN, which stands for latitude, ocean currents, winds and air masses, elevation, relief, and near water. In maritime climates like Vancouver, BC, the near water effect affects its minimal difference in temperatures in the winter and summer. The bodies of water tend to keep their heat in the winter, to which causes areas like Vancouver to be warmer in the winter compared to continental climates, where there is no water near the area. In Toronto, we have what's called a semi-continental climate. Another major and interesting impact from its diversity is the precipitation. In continental climates, there is less water, so there will be less moisture and causing its surrounding atmosphere to be dry, and therefore meaning that in the maritime climates, its moisture causes a high amount of precipitation. And also, relief from mountains cause to create these climate regions. Though Canada's population is low compared to other major countries, its annual net migration is among the top in the world. Most of the source of the migrants are recently the refugees and push factors from developing countries. Canada's population density is now around 4.2 per kilometer squared. And though this is not much, most of its population comes from immigration, therefore meaning that eventually its population density will increase. Canada also is the only Western country in the world that's ranked top 15 in cultural diversity. In Canada, there are three types of immigrants: economic immigrants, family immigrants, and a refugee. And to be admitted to Canada, one must go through the point system. In Canada, you must follow the point system in order to be a part of Canada. Most of us here have a person in their family that followed through this system, and that's why it's so diverse. If scored over 67, you may qualify to immigrate to Canada and be a federal worker, and if scored below 67, you cannot be admitted to immigrate, and the only exception are refugees. Canada's agriculture is famous for Canada's known identity to the world. We are one of the largest agriculture producers and exporters in the world. The economics is the key role in here. The resources in Canada are very scarce globally, therefore creating value for the resource. And this has been happening for hundreds of years. Back then, there were types of rural settlements, which were the long lots of southern Quebec, the concession system of southern Ontario, and the section system of the southern prairies. And the transportation methods back then would also be by water, and since Ontario have rich agricultural resources and are near the water, this was the perfect business for them, but was little hassle for the prairies. Now, with the development of roads, mostly everywhere will have transportation routes and will be able to conceive the supply it needs. Urban settlement in Toronto is quite different than other major cities around the world. In Toronto, it has perfect geological reasons as to why this is an ideal place. A good example is how the city was formed. Toronto's location is near the St. Lawrence Stream, and its flatlands cause a perfect way for transportation. Included with this, the neighboring cities of Toronto are also known for their manufacturing and resources. Toronto has majorly developed in terms of expansion, to which creates more land use in the city. The 6 land uses in Toronto are residential, commercial, industrial, transportation, recreational, and institutional. And all of this makes Toronto beneficial, especially with its population and expansion in land, and also benefits the government. From all of this, we can now see how geographical landforms affect where people live, to why geological discoveries are key to Canada's reputation, and why all of this relates to what it means to be a Canadian. I can say that Canada is the only country, despite having economic and political challenges, has managed to maintain a consistent, positive system, and overall, a wealthy look globally. Thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed.